Hey, it's James, Father's Rights and Resources, hashtag how I got custody. To me, the most important thing when you're dealing with a restraining order, I may have said this on this TikTok. I know I've said it on TikTok before. I can't remember, but it keeps popping up because guys keep getting restraining orders and women, it's the tool of choice. Just think about how every time somebody goes to court, they go get a restraining order. Why is that? Are there really millions and millions of men out there beating the snot out of women and stuff like that? Like, it's insane. And they just hand them out like water. Joe Biden's Violence Against Women Act in 1994, since that was put in place, has given billions of dollars to women only groups. And 60% of child abusers are women. I think it's specifically the biological mother. But it's women, and women commit 50% of domestic violence. Excuse me. That's only the reported stuff. And we know there's countless men who don't report it, don't call the cops, let it slide. And so much domestic violence is women lying or saying, I'm afraid he might hit me. In some laws, in Washington, they can get a domestic violence protection order for coercive control or driving erratically. We widened the definition of domestic violence up here so much. But we already have laws on assault. So why would they do that? Why would they have separate laws for assault on a spouse or girlfriend? Because radical feminists are psychotic and delusional, and it's in a woman's nature to want to rule over the man. It's the curse of Eve from the beginning. After the fall of man, whether you believe that or not, the Bible lays out, human nature and how people operate. And I didn't even notice that myself until like years of doing this. Her desire is to rule over the man, but it'll always be a man's world. And it always is. Men built everything in this world. It's always going to be a man's world, but women always want to rule over him. And they got, women have destroyed empires. They've destroyed men. In the old days, or we can see it with James Bond movies. What do they do in James Bond movies? They send a woman to seduce him and try and get him to killed. There's some people who go to war if they have a stalemate in the war, they'll send a woman to seduce a man or whatever, or as a traitor or a spy. So anyway, but we've given billions of dollars to women only. The Violence Against Women Act actually says the intent of this law. All the laws in America say, usually in the opening, here's the intent of the law. We find that domestic violence is a major problem. It needs to be eradicated. Carjacking is very common, so we need to come up with this law to help resolve the problem, and blah, 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 blah. And government, here's our solution from the government. And let's get on the government's breast and breastfeed from the government the rest of our lives. And when this is a constitutional republic, we're supposed to be living our lives and only having a few laws to protect us from the few crazy people that are dangerous to us. It's so backwards. Like we're living in a matrix, and we have a spell that's cast over us. And so we just go in and believe, and everybody believes that women are victims just because. And all these judges who live white picket fence lives and have never been divorced, then somebody comes in with a conflict and they frown upon you. Look at these peasants who can't get along. He must be a monster. And they get all self-righteous and want to rescue people. These radical feminist man-hating lesbians got molested by their dad. They want to rescue every woman. All these do-gooder, white knight in shining armor coming to the rescue, wanting to be a hero, self-righteous clowns of judges. So you're walking in, like I'll never forget when I walked into the family court system and everybody gave me an attitude, and they were looking like I was an animal, or I'm the the elephant man at the zoo. I'm a spectacle. Even the bailiff was sitting there, sit down and calm down. I'm like, dude, I just walked in. I handed them the judges, my first court hearing. Here's the judge's copy. Okay, fine. Sit down and calm down. Like, dude, what's your problem? I just walked in the door. And that guy gave me an attitude a couple of times. So, and I actually ended up being a clerk working at the courthouse, and that guy trained me about doing my job, and I saw him talking major shit about people who came to court and were criminals. And he goes, "This is where all the f-ups are." It was kind of ironic. About 6 or 7 years after I was in his courtroom, this guy who was a bailiff, well, he was actually a clerk, not a bailiff. Anyway, one of the biggest things, so you're going in there, they assume that you're a monster, they see a woman's crocodile tears, women are great at faking it, it's coming out more and more with Pearl from Pearly Things. You see Andrew Tate, Kevin Samuels, these guys talking about women lying. There's one guy I really like is I Am Mr. Let Go on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. He doesn't fully grasp how bad family court is, but he has some good stuff. But let me get back to my point. When you're dealing with the restraining orders and the overwhelming system, you got cops that are assuming that you did something wrong as soon as somebody calls. You got women crying, and then you got everybody coming against you, and they'll do a restraining order just in case it's true. But the number one thing I think guys need to do is they need to distance themselves. You don't want to go in there and say, "I'm just trying to work with my baby's mom. I want us to get along. I want this and I want that." You stupid dumbass. That lady is saying that you're a monster or you're a stalker and she wants to get away from you. And you're saying all this stuff. You need to step the hell out of yourself and look at yourself. If you actually care about your case and you're dealing with a restraining order, false allegations of domestic violence or child abuse, you need to step outside of yourself and wake the frick up to reality and stop being a little whiny bitch just for a minute. You can be all upset, heartbroken, hurt. I've been in a couple relationships in my life where I was really heartbroken for a long time. And I don't mean like years and years, but a long, significant period of time, because I actually cared about somebody, and the ones you care about the most sometimes play you the hardest, or it stings the most, I guess. Every other girlfriend I've had, we walked away amicably. I might have hurt somebody, but I tried to do it gracefully and soften the blow. But, I mean, there was a couple people where I couldn't believe. Now, my baby's mom, big deal. There's a couple people, I was really sprung over it. I just really could not believe it. So, that's kind of a death blow for a minute. And narcissistic abuse is real and all that stuff. But for the sake of your kids, you may not be that woman's husband, for life. You may not be the boyfriend. But you will always be the father of your kids. If you know that's your kids, you will always be the father of your kids. So go save that relationship first and screw the other side. If you're hoping she reconciles or gets her stuff together and is civil, she's not civil right now. Take her word for what it is. Even if you know she's bluffing and lying, take her word for what it is. Hold her to the fire. If that's what she's going to say, then you act like that in court. If somebody's going to come running across the war field, like the battlefield, and they got a gun or they got a bazooka and they're coming at you, and they were just bluffing or joking, that's no time for joking and bluffing. You need to take them out. Your life with your kids is at stake. So when you go, you should talk to somebody and say, "Hey, I think about going in and this and that and saying this and saying that." How does that come off? What kind of perception do you think that gives? And if you have some real friends that are honest with you, when you sit there and say, "Well, I just want to work it out with her. I just wanted to be cool. I want to be civil. I'm the good guy." And she's sitting there saying, "He's a psychotic stalker. I don't want anything to do with him. Our relationship is over. I want him estranged from me." And you're sitting there saying how you want to work it out. You stupid dumbass. You look like a stalker, you moron. Now, you may really love her, and she kind of still loves you, and she's just playing a game, and you know it. It doesn't matter. It's a game of perception in court, and your life with your kids is on the line. There's so many guys that were such dumbasses, they got served a restraining order that says, "Do not go near the mother, do not contact her, you go to jail." And they call her up and say, "What are you doing? How could you do this to me?" Restrain your emotions. I know a guy who said, "You keep the kids from me again, heads are going to roll." Boom, 5-year restraining order for threatening to murder her. When a restraining order says what it says, don't play around with it. But you have to go in there and say, "I care less whether I talk to mother again. I just want to be an involved father like I did." It works over and over. You have to distance yourself. and get my defense against restraining order packet in my store if you don't know how to defend yourself in writing.